Hi, welcome back to another episode of Talkin Insights, the podcast that dives deep into the people's ideas and stories shaping the world of market research and insights. I'm your host, António, and today we're exploring the power of patient voices. I know it's not a topic that we talk every day, but understanding how not just being participants in research, but also being active partners in shaping better healthcare outcomes and how that improves the insights in general. That's what we're talking today. Joining me, we have Wes Michael. He's the founder and president of Rare Patient Voice, a company that connects patient and family caregivers with opportunities to share their experiences with researchers, product developers, and healthcare professionals. They started with one disease, and now, more than 10 years later, they are working with more than 1,000 conditions. It's a very interesting conversation and a fascinating story about taking risks and diving into the unknown, especially in business and starting your businesses. I hope you'll learn something new and you get some inspiration from Wes, who is a brilliant guy. But now, without further ado, here's Wes. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for being here in the Talkin Insights podcast. I want to start by asking more about you and Rare Patient Voice. Tell me what it is, how it started. Tell me everything.
Sure. What we do is very simple. We have patients. We've met patients. We've recruited patients who are interested in taking part in research. So we make them available to folks. And it's a real win-win because patients love that somebody's interested to get their opinions, to talk about their disease or their kids or their caregivers. They love that so much. Clients love that they can get folks that it doesn't take forever and they're not sure that, we already have them and they're ready, willing, and able to talk. And we compensate the patient. So on top of feeling good about it, they get compensated. And then we get compensated. So what's not to like? Every aspect of it has really worked out well. I've been in market research for many years, and I moved from the packaged goods world, food products, into healthcare. And it was a very different world then. In healthcare, people were used to only talking to physicians because they prescribe and that's all that matters. But the world was changing. Wait a minute, what about patients? What about advertising to patients in the US, for example, or websites and things? And a client, I was working for a full service market research firm, and a client came to us in the hemophilia space. Hemophilia is a rare, bleeding disorder. They had a product, and their treatment was the exact same as somebody else's. They just same chemical, different label slapped on it. They wanted to learn more from a marketing standpoint. What can we do? What services can we provide? What can we learn about these people? Because you're selling an identical product, you've got to do something differently. So they said, can you create a panel of hemophilia patients and caregivers? And we'll learn from them. We'll get inside their heads, their feelings, their experiences, what they like. So we did that, and then we did it by going to the National Hemophilia Conference. This was just in the US at that time. And setting up our table and having our giveaway items and our clipboards. It wasn't even online. The people would sign up and they go, what's this about? I said, well, you get to share your opinion. It's confidential and you get compensated. And it worked out really well. We signed up a lot of folks, and the client did lots of surveys and interviews, and they really learned a lot, and they felt they were able to differentiate themselves. And that's fine. So that would have been the end of it, except every year we'd go back to the conference. They would move it from city to city, and we would send a team out to recruit more people. And one year, a different client came up to me, and they said, here you have this panel. Can we access it? Well, the answer is no. I mean, client A paid for it. Client B can't have it. But I said, well, it gave me the idea. Why not create a panel that's not beholden to one client? In market research, so often everybody's like, nobody wants to do anything until the client's going to pay for it. And I said, no, let's go out ahead of the game on faith, and if you will, recruit people. And then when people need them, they're ready, willing, and able to go. So I had that idea, and it wasn't until years later, so 12 years ago, everything came together for me personally. I was working for a company, I ran a little short on cash and was going to be slow in paying me. And my wife had gotten a job, and in the US, it's all about having health care, and she got health care. So I said, okay, I'm doing it. I'm going to start this. And guess what I started with? Hemophilia, right? It's like, I'm not an idiot. It had worked. I went to the hemophilia conference, and that was our first project. We recruited hemophilia. So from there, with just me doing hemophilia, now we have our team of 40 some people. We've got 1,500 diseases covered, 180,000 patients and
Oh, wow.
caregivers. We've done over 10,000 projects. And one thing I'm most proud of, we paid patients over 15 million US dollars
Well,
for taking part. So again, it's been a real win-win. It's really worked out great.
I can tell, yeah, it's a real win-win for everyone. I mean, you get the expertise, you get the good insights, and on the other hand, you get some money.
Yeah, yeah,
That's great. That's
as you
great.
know, so the patient is a small part of a research project budget too. So it's like it seems to work out quite well.
That's very interesting. I was going to ask, like, why is this patient participation so critical beyond the whole data? Because one thing is like the numbers and the letters,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
can imagine that the patient feeling and this participation is also very critical for the whole project, right?
I think so. I think it's a two-way street. I think on the one hand, you have to involve patients. If we're a manufacturer and we're making drugs and medicines for patients, they're the people using it. We need to know what they think. It's not just about doctors are very important and obviously a key part of the equation, but let's think about the people using it too. But the other way around, I think people really love to be part of the process. They want to be involved. They want to know that they're contributing to it. And so many of these people who have horrible diseases, they know that it might not help them, but it'll help those coming after. And we really see that people are really want to do what they can to donate of themselves that can help. And it really has over the years. It's just amazing the progress that's been made. And I think it'll be even more in the future. We look back and see some of these horrible diseases and see that now they're not an issue.
And I can imagine that this voice and the patient voices also kind of influence the way that some of the products are developed, but also the message behind it and the strategy behind it, right? Because again, as you were saying, like if you have a disease, you kind of want to help the next one or the next person and trying to ease up the pain, right?
Yeah, I was at a conference once. Well, so many of them are patient oriented or they're researcher oriented, and this was both. They had the patients and they had the scientific researchers, and it was a lung condition. And it was great to see a meeting of the minds because the researchers said, "We've got this. We're going to cure you and we're going to save your life." And the patient said, "Thank you. I love that. However, can you do something about my cough?" And they said, "That's not what's killing you. We're not focusing on that." And the patient said, "If you can't fix this cough, I don't even want to live." So they learned it's not just about what they thought, it's the patient's quality of life. So they really need to hear, they needed to listen to each other and learn that. And it was so great to hear that, the patient's voice resonating in the researchers' minds and saying, okay, it's not just about prolonging their life.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. How is it important, or how important is it the diversity and inclusion in these types of patient recruitments and in these types of projects? How important is that?
That's so important. For years and years, you look at clinical trial things, and I get from a scientific standpoint, they want things very clean so there's not a lot of variables. But that's not the real world. The real world, in several ways, people generally, I learned this, I didn't realize this sounds so obvious now. People don't have one disease. We recruit people and they go, wait a minute, I also have this, this, and this. I'm like, oh, because they travel together. You have immunocompromised system. You get a lot of different conditions. So people don't have one thing. Well, that's the real world because they'll recruit and say, wait a minute, if they have other diseases, I get it. It makes it more complicated, but it's the real world. People have more than one. And when you think of diversity and such, the same thing. The world is not, I like to think of when I went to elementary school many, many years ago, right? Everybody it was pretty much a white suburban. Everybody had names of Bob and Tom and Bill. It's like, that's not the world now. My kids and my grandsons at elementary school, and it's this nice suburban thing. They've got people from 23 countries. Nobody's name's John, Tom, or Bob or Bill anymore. So that's the world we live in, and we don't want to live in the past. We don't live in some fictional world that really never existed. And so
Exactly.
we've got to take that into account when they're doing trials, when they're looking at folks. The same thing too. There's so many wonderful patient advocates that are well educated, and we love them, and they take part. That's not the normal. They need to go out and get the regular person that might not be as highly educated, might not know as much about it. Companies need to know how they think and how to communicate to them in their language, not just at a super college educated, refined communication style.
Yeah. And my understanding is that the Rare Patient Voices RPV right now has almost like a global expansion and global reach, right? You're not only focused on the US, right? You have other
That's
countries.
true. They
Yeah.
started in the U.S., and that's because that's where I'm based, and that's kind of what we knew. And there's certainly a lot of focus there because, in the U.S. we have the direct-to-consumer advertising, so there's more of certainly a need to review materials and such. Clients constantly were asking us, wait a minute, we need patients in other countries, we need help. Now we're in the big five in Europe, UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Canada, and Australia, New Zealand, though we don't have a lot there. Some of that was easy because we didn't have to redo a website for that, whereas the other countries with the languages and stuff. So yeah,
Right.
we are there. We just did a survey among a lot of our clients, asking them what countries they would prefer us to expand to, and Japan was the top one. I'm not saying we're doing that tomorrow because there's a lot of challenges is to build something in a completely different country in a different culture, but the demand is there to talk to patients all around the globe.
And how is this scale, or how is this expansion, or what type of insight do you bring from the different countries? Do you manage to bring like a more insightful project? Does it grow the projects? How was this
Yeah,
expansion?
well, it's very interesting to overlay cultural differences. And international marketers, they see this and it's so interesting. I mean, and some of what we call stereotypes, they seem to play out as in truth. We see that in recruiting our panel. In Italy and Spain, people are like, yay, I'm happy to do it. In Germany, they're like, are you kidding? I'm not giving my data to anybody. I get it. There's a history, right?
Yeah.
So you have to take all that into account. So it's not just about do they like a product or not like it. It's like what's the cultural background? Where are they coming from? How does that compare to other things? Because it might sound like they're not interested, but relatively speaking, they may be quite interested.
So almost like maintaining that trust, or in this case, building the trust of the patients. Would you say that's kind of like the hardest part when in the
Well,
beginning?
to me, the trust of the patients and the clients has been so important. We made from the beginning, I made like a pledge. It's like, okay, I'm going to pay patients as soon as possible because some people are like months later, if they haven't been paid, it's like, no, they think it's a scam. They get mad. I'm going to pay them right away, which is a challenge because we might not get paid right away. You know what I mean? It's like there could be a gap, but it paid off several years back. We were using a company that sent checks to people. In the US, we still old-fashioned paper checks, believe it or not. And the company we were using was doing fine by us, but it had some other branch that was closed down by the US Treasury, and it was in Canada, the Canadian Mounties. It was closed down for some fraudulent activity, again, unrelated to what we were doing. Well, we had money out there to be paid to people. It was frozen. And they couldn't tell us which was frozen and which wasn't. And so it's like, oh my God, we've got people that we've promised money to. They're not going to say it. Well, the good news is we had built up trust. They had known we were good for our word. So people would ask and we would explain, and we got over it fine because as soon as we find out, we'd find another way and pay them. But it was an example of thank goodness to build up trust, because otherwise they would have just slam the door in our face.
Yeah.
And then with clients, it's the key thing we've had to do for trust is we don't overpromise. From the very beginning, I did this for my own peace of mind. I didn't want to have promised people 10 patients and they're due the next day and I don't have them. I mean, I can't click my fingers, right, and make them appear. So we're very honest. We say, here's what we have in our panel based on your specifications. Here's how many we're like, and we're pretty good at estimating that. And we're always trying to get more. We love to get more. That's good for us as well. But we want to let people know early on, hey, you're looking for 10 of a rare disease for a Zoom interview. Looks like we can get you 7. So we want to let you know that we're happy to work together with others. We don't want you to wait to the last minute and find out we're going to be short. So that's paid off very well because people get, at the beginning, they're like, what do you mean you can't get all 10? But they'd rather know the truth and they'd rather know it early. And then we've developed that trust. So they know that because there are firms, I think, that use a different approach. They'll promise anything and then hope they're able to do it. And good for them if they're able to. But I didn't want to live that way. So
Yeah.
it's worked out well that people know to trust us. We're not over promising.
Yeah. The over promising sometimes break trust, and it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
good.
yeah.
It's interesting that previously you mentioned the survey that you did and the Japan and the fact that people wanted you to come to Japan. My next question was on what's next. What's next for Rare Patient Voices, and you have any expansions, any innovations, any new areas, new diseases that you want to focus on?
Yeah. Yeah, we're always looking for more patients. No matter what we have, people want more of them, or they want a sliver, a tiny segment of a certain group. So we're always doing that. The other thing we found is there's more than just insights and market research that's interested in patients. There's the clinical trials, not just recruiting for a trial, but recruiting people to help design the trial. So you're taking the patient's voice into account early on. And so we found a lot of interest in other departments, if you will, of life sciences companies to do that. Another very interesting thing, we've worked with a company, one in particular is called Clinicos. And they have the ability this is within the US, with the patient's consent, getting electronic medical records and prescription records and all sorts of things. Again, anonymized, nobody's getting that, but you could do research then and tie together, right? Get the patient's experience and emotions and why they did what they did, but then find out what exactly happened. When were they diagnosed? What did they have? Because patients, they could have a complicated cancer treatment. They don't know exactly what they're on or what they were diagnosed with. So it marries both pieces of information. And that seems to be an exciting area of growth for companies that really want to. People talk about the 360-degree patient journey. Well, that helps that because you're getting the patient point of view, but you're getting their records, the hard data as well. So you're not missing any piece of it. So that's a very exciting area to grow up to.
Do you think that technology nowadays, like we have all this tech even on our wrists, the
Yeah.
fingers everywhere, everyone has like something that's measuring something or somewhere at once. Do you think that these types of new technologies will help you do your job, will make it easier to collect that data? Obviously with the consent, but is
Yeah.
it easier now than previously?
Yeah, definitely. And so much of what we do doesn't go that far yet. They just want to talk to people. Yeah, the old fashioned. What do they think and how do they feel? If you really want to get that data, and so much, you hear about sleep. Well, let's measure sleep. Well, you can have these intrusive sleep studies, and it's like I don't know how people sleep with tubes all over them. And anyway, but yeah, now you put a watch on it, and if you're not moving, it's assuming you're asleep. So there's other ways of getting good data, and I don't think any one thing is the answer, right? But if you combine a lot of this stuff, you have a lot more than you had before, and then throw AI on top of it, and we kind of try to figure it all out, right?
Yeah,
So I think we'll get a lot smarter about this stuff. We'll be able to get to things easier than in the past. So I'm very optimistic about that.
that's very interesting. I have one final question. If you could give, we have a lot of people listening from different parts of the market research industry, from the CEOs, from the C-level suites,
Right.
but also from the newcomers, the people that just finished school
Yeah.
and are new to the market industry. Do you have any advice for them? What's the one advice for everyone?
Geez, I think back to when I didn't know anything and I was just learning to do things. So I guess the one piece of advice, especially for new people, is do not be afraid. Nobody's born knowing anything. I like to do that in healthcare research. You're learning a disease and you're impressed with a physician. They weren't born knowing anything either. You can learn anything. And now we have all these tools. You don't have to go to a library and find a dusty old book. You can go on the internet and find information. You got to be careful about the sources, but you can learn so much about things. And so never let that hold you back. Don't be afraid of lack of knowledge. Just plunge in. And the other thing is, as people get down the road, I was in my 50s before I started my own company. I'd say again, do not be afraid. I know they say companies fail and things like that, but it's the best thing ever happened to me when I went out on my own and had to do that. And I just encourage people, if you have an idea, take that leap if you can. And don't worry if you're older. It's like
Yeah.
there's plenty of time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's so true. Like I feel like sometimes you step back or you're afraid to do something because you're this age or that age or you feel like you won't belong. Sometimes you just need to take the risk.
Just do it, see what happens. And you know what? If it's like my path, thank goodness I didn't know all the issues and problems, because I would have said, oh, but everything that came up, a solution popped up, things I never even thought of. I didn't plan it. I thought it would just be in rare disease. Well, it turns out people have other diseases, and we got requests for non-rare.
Yeah,
We found
that's
out how to
great.
recruit people during COVID, even though there weren't events. All these things, solutions are out there. You have to have a little bit of faith that you'll find it, and keep your eyes and ears open to be open to solutions. But don't let. There's always a good reason not to do this, right? So don't let that stop you. You gotta get over that.
Yeah. Well, that's very inspiring. Thank you very much for the conversation. Thank you very much for your time. And I wish you all the luck and all the success for Rare Patient Voices. I will link everything in the show notes. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks, Antonio. I love it. I love that, as you can see, share our story. And if anybody wants to contact me, they can find me on LinkedIn or on our website or wherever it might be. So happy to interact with the people.
Thank you. All right. And that's all for today. Thank you so much, Wes, for the conversation and for the inspiration. It's sometimes one of those industries that's kind of overlooked, but I think it's very important for us and everyone in market research to sometimes think outside the box and hear about these successful cases. Next week, we'll come back with another great episode, another great conversation. But until then, have a good day, have a good week, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.